What's that?
Mr. Watson Duke, let me say a special hello to you, sir.
Hey, good morning, my
Welcome.
brother, all the way from Roxborough. Night, I should say.
Wait,
It's not
you're
you,
saying
right?
I from Roxborough. You're saying I from Roxborough. You from Roxborough.
Well, I think last time I had a discussion with me from Roxborough, and so.
Well, yeah. Well, I just want to be clear. I want to be sure you, you have good memory, man.
It's good.
So,
You, right? We're in New
wait a
Jersey.
minute, is that rock?
Yeah,
Oh, is that
yeah.
Roxborough thing? Nobody in red.
Go ahead, Anna.
Is that Roxborough thing? Nobody ain't know the fella from Jersey and the girl from Connecticut. Well, all right, okay.
Greetings. You know, I'm streaming live on my Facebook page.
That's it. I'm only about to
Well, Mr. Duke, we also have with us Diana. We have with us Waveney Diana Benskin, better known as the Storm. We also have with us Gary Mahabe, who's known as the Phantom. And we have with us a guy they call him Tommy. They call him the outside child.
All right. Quite you have tonight, man.
Yeah. So we have the dark triplets and the outside child. Somebody already saying to you, Mr. Duke. Lana says, bless good night, Mr. Duke.
Nice. Well, I'm all here, and I'm ready for the questions.
You have a lot of fans. Yeah, you ready for the questions? You know, when they come into the village, you don't set up no softball question in the village, you know.
Man, fling them. Fling them.
You fling them. So,
fling them.
So, all right, so listen to this. Here what we start with, right? We're going to start with, I want you to listen to Mr. Kelvin Jack. And I want to get, your opinion and your views on this. Take a listen to Mr. Jack. Not Mr. Jeff, Mr. Jack. Mr. I say Kelvin Jack. I talking about the former goalkeeper for Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, Joel Jack, Assemblyman Joel Jack. Take a listen.
First and foremost, and as Secretary of Finance and Deputy Chief Secretary, let me say that I am excited with the current document that is before us. I think it's a document that really improves and enhances and gives greater autonomy to the people of Tobago. We have an increased provision whereby we have moved from the band 4.03 to 6.9 to a floor or minimum of 6.8% of the national budget.
What is your opinion, Mr. Duke?
Mr. Jack is tired. And he sounds rather stupid. And I'll be frank with you, we have currently in the Tobago House of Assembly Act, which was established in 1996, we have a budgetary allocation that is 4.3 to 6.9 of the Trinidad national budget. That should be allocated to Tobago. In the current in what is proposed by Trinidad for Tobago in 2021, they are giving us an allocation of 6.8. Now, if I did math in school, 6.9 is greater than 6.8. So Mr. Jack is sounding stupid. He's sounding dunce. He's insulting the intelligence of Tobago. For example, if we had a budget of 4.3 to 6.9, that's the allocation of the national budget Tobago is supposed to receive. Why doesn't this loving, this embracing, this all-inclusive PNM who wants the best for Tobago, why didn't they just give us 6.9? Why they have to wait until something is about to be debated to stick into it, a lower figure than that which was already allocated? They have stuck into the new document 6.8, which is less than what we can now have, 6.9. So they're limiting us. And he's saying he's satisfied with that. No wonder this is his last term as an assemblyman, because he'll be voted out. The man is just unintelligent.
Now, Mr. Duke,
forgive me for speaking off, but that's how I speak, straight.
No, listen, you're in the village, man. We don't want you to come here and pontificate,
me and come no polish talk.
No, we don't want you to come and pontificate. We wanted to give it to us straight.
Straight.
Now, Mr. Duke, some people
Yeah.
will say there are 60,000 people in Tobago. The population of Tobago is about 60,000 people. And the population of Trinidad and Tobago is 1.390 million people, right? So 1.3 million people. And
Yeah.
kind of if you divide 60 by 1.3 million, you get about 4%. So Tobago is actually 4% of the population of Trinidad and Tobago. And by receiving 4% of the budget, you know, it's an equal allocation, but increasing that to 6.8 is an even better allocation for Tobago. What do you say about that?
Well, the question doesn't arise. As I said to you, Tobago now has an allocation of 4.3 to 6.9. That is in law. We can receive that. A maximum of 6.9 and a minimum of 4.3. How could you remove that and say to us, you will give us 6.8? 6.8 in my understanding of maths, and I am a mathematical genius, is less than 6.9. 6.8 is not greater than 6.9. So I cannot be satisfied with that. Remove it completely. I'm not even getting into the percentage. The fact of the matter is 6.8 that you're promising us is less than the 6.9 we now have. I'm not going to discuss that. We need to have more than that. But more than all of that, Tobago must decide for itself. Not Trinidad decide what they're going to give us. Tobago must decide what it wants from Trinidad. And I'm going to tell you why if I'm permitted to.
Sure. Tell us.
Tobago was once a British colony, meaning that the affairs of Tobago was administered by the British through their residents that occupied the island of Tobago between 1769 to 1876. So it was a British colony, British dependent. In 1889, Tobago was given to Trinidad as a ward, as a village, as a paraplegic, someone that Trinidad must take care of. Now, this is a colony that was under the British, being given to Trinidad, which was also run by the British. In international law during the 60s, etc., 1960s, there was a law for non-governing territories that was made so that those who administer the affairs of those non-self-governing territories should have built them up to a point where those non-self-governing territories should be mature, where they can take over their own affairs. I hope I'm not getting too deep. Am I getting too deep?
No, keep going, man. Keep going.
Good. Now, I'll repeat again for emphasis. In the 1960s, laws were being created internationally so that the non-self-governing territories, the colonies, should have been built up by those who administer its affairs, which is the colonizers. They should have built us up, developed us up, so we can get self-government. That happened in Trinidad, it happened in Barbados, it happened throughout the world, Ghana, and a number of other places, but not Ghana, a number of African countries happened, even Ghana too, where they would develop to a point where they could manage their own affairs. In Tobago, however, we were given to Trinidad, and before we could have even spoken, Trinidad had dismantled any form of governance model in Tobago. So Trinidad spoke for us. In 1956, 54, somewhere around there, when they had this little elections and Eric Williams became the premier, they spoke for us. We had no real government in Tobago. We had one representative, a token representative, A.P.T. James, during those years. And so Tobago have never spoken. They knew that what we wanted was self-government because we were never a colony of Trinidad. We were never twins. Tobago was a separate place, had its own governor, its own constitution, its own chief justice, its own laws. Tobago was a place where persons were taxed. Tobago was a place with its own treasury, its own businessmen. And so now, what's happening is that Trinidad is operating as if we were always together and they conquered us, and now they are giving us freedom because it is theirs to give. Self-determination does not belong to governments. It does not belong to states. It belongs to the people, based on international law, based on the United Nations law. And the people of Tobago is asking for self-determination, which is the right that they will freely determine their political status, right? And when I say political status, I mean they should decide for themselves whether they want to be integrated with Trinidad and how that integration should actually take place. Whether that's one. Two, whether they want to be associated with Trinidad and the Eastern Caribbean states where they share a dollar, or whether we want to just share perhaps other things, security, etc. Or they can decide whether we want to be independent, like Grenada, like St. Vincent, like but those countries. That is our right. That is our right. And had we still been directly under the British colony and not a ward of Trinidad, then we would have had that decision to make. Today, all our riches in the sea, the oil, the gas, is taken away from us. And I say not by Trinidad, but by PNM. I want to be clear tonight. There's a difference between Trinidadians and PNM. Trinidadians are not PNM. PNM is a cult. And the PNM wants to legitimize the slavery of Tobago people and put it into the constitution. So they are trying to throw a dollar bill at us, saying, look, while you're now getting 4.3%, I'm going to give us 6.8. But 6.8 is less than what we were supposed to get. It is the PNM who never gave us the 6.9%. It is the PNM who never gave us the 6.9%, which they were supposed to give us. And now they're coming to say to us, they're going to give us 6.8, forget the 6.9, take that. It's the best we can offer. I say to the PNM, rock so. We do not want slavery to be entrenched in the Constitution. What Tobago wants is the right to decide its relationship with Trinidad. So, for example, we can see today or tomorrow, let's have an integrated or federal system with Trinidad, where the island of Tobago is defined and the island of Trinidad is defined. And we have the federation between the two countries defined. So you have New York, you have New Jersey, you have Philadelphia, all these are states. All right, you have Illinois, all these are states. They have their own governance structure. Am I correct on that?
Correct. Correct is right.
Good. And they call their shots to themselves. When a law is made in New York, President Bush will sign off on that. It's the governor that signs off on that. They have autonomy. When a law is made in Illinois, it is the Illinois people that sign off on that, and they have discussed among themselves what they are going to be integrated on and the things that are going to be separate. So Trump cannot tell New York when to open its borders. It's the governor to do that. And so what we have in Trinidad, where the PNM holds itself to be the supreme leader of this country. They are like the Shah. They are like some kind of emperor. The whole party sees themselves as that. And so therefore, they can dictate to Tobago what Tobago wants. We will have none of that. There will be a battle on their hands that they have not seen. I'm telling you that. The PDP is prepared to fight and die for the freedom of Tobago. I repeat, the PDP is prepared to fight and die for Tobago. Not in my lifetime. In my lifetime, freedom must come to Tobago. And what we are saying, give us that first fundamental right, the right to determine our own political status. That must be determined in Tobago and not Trinidad. Don't say what is good for us. Let Tobagonians decide, because we are free people. We have a different ethnic culture from Trinidad. We came from a different place than those in Trinidad. We have a different history to Trinidad. We are not together, but totally separated. The way we speak is different. Our culture is different. The way we socialize is different. And they have to respect that. They have to respect that. Geographically, we are different from Trinidad. We are not the daughter of Trinidad, the sister of Trinidad. We are a different nation completely. And the right to choose is already written in the preamble of the proposed constitution, but it is not enacted in the preceding sections.
Mr. Duke,
the preceding sections.
Can Tobago stand on its own without Trinidad?
Certainly, certainly. And I'll give you a reference point, right? Antigua, maybe a little bigger than Tobago, a little bigger than Tobago, I think it is, Antigua. Antigua and Bermuda. And in
Barbuda.
2019, yeah, Barbuda, Antigua and Barbuda. In 2019, they would have reported internationally, and that's international reports now, 1 million tourist arrivals. You know how many tourists came to Tobago in 2019? 20, let's say 20,000. 20,000 tourists came to Tobago. 20,000 tourists came to Tobago in 2019. While in Antigua and Barbuda, they had 1 million tourists. You know how much money that translated into based on international records that can be searched for and found on the internet? Let me tell you how much. Almost $1 billion US. $1 billion US. And
I'm one of those tourists.
Okay, very good. I'm one of those tourists. I think I would have gone there in 2019 too myself, maybe twice. So I'm saying to you that when one looks at tourism, $1 billion US in Antigua, that translates into about 10 billion TT dollars, 10 to 1 black market price we're talking about, all right? Our yearly budget in Tobago is 2.5 billion TT dollars. Come on, Tobago can do much more than that. Tobago is rich in the carbon minerals, the oil, the gas. We are rich in that, right? It's a known fact internationally. We are rich in that. But Trinidad claim our territorial and contiguous and exclusive economic zone as their own, saying it is one country. Tobago has nothing of its own, it's one. But it's the PNM who is doing that wickedness. It's time that the PNM leave Tobago alone, and the people in Tobago have decided to drive them out through the polls. This is why we are almost in office now. We are almost in office. It's just the PNM who's blocking it now. But they should be out. Tobagonians don't want them.
I have a question or two, Mr. Duke.
Please ask me.
I was one of the tourists in Tobago, not Antigua and Barbuda.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, 3 questions I have. Firstly,
fling them, man. Fling them.
Well, I'm not too, knowledgeable on the whole autonomy thing, but I'm going to ask some logical questions here. Do you think that a fresh mandate will demonstrate remove the chances of the mathematical error occurring again, where you have this 6-6 tie? And if this deadlock continues till the next general election, do you think what do you think the outcome will be? And you also talk about autonomy for Tobago or from Trinidad, and they're part of the Commonwealth. How do you cross that hurdle of the Commonwealth? Because they always have their tentacles in us colonial wise. How do you cross that tentacle? How do you get rid of those tentacles, the colonial Commonwealth tentacles?
All right. If I fail to answer the question, just remind me of them. The first one is, if we go back to the polls, whether we would be 6-6. The answer is no. Tobagonians have seen how the PNM has treated Tobagonians, and they are angry. They are seething with anger and disgust. They hate the PNM. We will win an election even without casting a dime. That is how Tobagonians feel. So if they put 15 seats, 20 seats, 100 seats, they will lose, and they will lose tremendously. It's the first question. So there's no chance of a 6-6 again. So PDP is going to win this time. Secondly, you asked the question whether or not, if they hold the elections over till national election, what's
this
going
deadlock continues, yeah.
It can't happen. It can't happen. Tobagonians will not allow it. It would lead to a type of activity in the streets that will tell a lot about how Tobagonians feel. Tobagonians are not quiet people, They are people who know how to struggle, but they are people who believe in peace. There are people who believe in the good order of society. But if they continue to ram slavery down our throats, as if we are a colony of Trinidad, as if they fought and fired a gun and they would have taken charge of us, they will wake up one day. The PNM that is, not Trinidadians, the PNM that is, they will wake up one to understand that they have miscalculated the intelligence of Tobago people. We do not like the PNM, and we do not want no part of them. The PDP is here now, and we are enlightening the people, and we are here to stay. The third question you asked me was regarding the CARICOM and the mentality of CARICOM persons and slavery. Well, certainly, CARICOM,
the Commonwealth.
Well, the Commonwealth is persons who have been enslaved by the British colony, one way or the other. And that's a whole group of people, a lot of countries, span beyond the Caribbean. It even spans the first world countries also too. And people are who they are. But Tobagonians, they have emancipated themselves from mental slavery. We are not slaves. We are free thinkers, and hence people have chosen deliberately to let go the red and choose the black. They have chosen to let go the PNM and hold on to the PDP. And Tobagonians are willing to fight and die for their belief at this point in time. We are more educated now than we were ever before in history, because the books that we want to read, they are on our computers. We could just pick it up and read it in the night. Anytime we can read it. It's in also audio tape. It's also videotape. So there's knowledge right around us, and we are satisfying ourselves or thirst for knowledge by digging deeper. They can't fool us anymore with their pseudo knowledge.
Mr.
Do you
Duke,
have? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Anna.
Do you have political aspirations wider, bigger than Tobago, or like in Trinidad?
Not necessarily, but I've been asked to set up shop in Trinidad, which I'm not opposed to. But my primary concern is to fight for people. I believe slavery has ended, and nobody should be enslaved. I believe, for example, our government, the Holy PNM rather, is an evil, is a curse to this country. And I mean that when I say that. They are a curse, a literal curse. And I see the PNM specifically because they have held power for the longest time. They have had control over the greatest assets of the nation. They have had all the booms, and they have literally done nothing for the country. For example, we speak of local government in Trinidad, and there are about 15 local government areas. And all of these places are dependencies on central government. They are all dependencies on central government. I would make a recommendation, should I be them in Trinidad, to make those local government corporations, or those local government corporations, autonomous bodies. So where we have the mayor, we have this, we have that, they must be allowed to. Connection has been restored. Yeah. So we will actually make those autonomous structures. Those corporations should be able to make law for their own geographical area, yes, and they should be given monies so as to develop the area commensurate with the people who live in the area. Let the big government look after policies, but the PNM believe in slavery. They enslave people all the time, over and over, because that is their modus operandi. Enslavement, enslavement, enslavement to the fullest. They love that. All right.
So Mr. Duke, that's a good point. I want to get back to that point. All right, because I live in New Jersey, and where I live, we have a governing body. We have a mayor, and we have people who are part of the township, and they basically run the township. They take care of the roads. They take care of the school. We pay property taxes. The property taxes go in, and they allocated different areas, right, within the system. So, and the governor, right, can't come, and mess with these people then, because they are running, we are running their community or their township, so to speak. With that in mind, I know that now the PNM or the government is suggesting 15 seats. And I think this is going to be debated this coming Monday. Is that correct?
Not the 15 seats. What they want to debate on Monday coming is the bill that they are bringing to the Parliament, which is the Constitutional Amendment 2021 bill and the Tobago Island Government bill. They want to dictate to us how our island government should be formed and run, but they're out of place. They can't do that.
Now, are you in agreement with the movement from 12 seats to 15 seats? Is the PDP in agreement with that?
Well, no. We believe that the government should have involved the entire 12 assemblymen and not speak to its 6 side and then decide that what it wants? That's what the PNM did. They sat and they spoke to their side of 6 PNM assemblymen, and they said that's the consensus, and they're going with that. No one spoke to the 6 PDP assemblymen or the other half of Tobago that does not support the PNM. That to me is wrong. And so therefore, on that basis, we do not support the 15 seats or the 3 additional seats to the 12.
From a PDP perspective, what does autonomy look like for Tobago?
Well, autonomy speaks to 4 things, right? In the broadest sense. 1, Tobago must be given the right to freely determine its political status without any external influence, without the parliament intervening, without anybody outside of Tobago intervening. Tobago must for itself determine its political status, which can be 1 out of 3 status. 1, Tobago must decide whether it wants full independence. That's the people of Tobago, they must decide that. 2, whether they want to be an association with Trinidad or they want to join the Eastern Caribbean states. They must decide that. Or 3, whether they want to be integrated with Trinidad or integrated with anybody else, right? And what is the basis of that integration? Whether it's federation as the United States or federation like St. Kitts and Nevis, they must decide that. The time has come for Tobago to be more than just a ward, but to be equal with the island of Trinidad. And so if we are going to define our maritime boundaries, then Trinidad must define theirs. What is the maritime boundaries of Trinidad? What are the maritime boundaries of Tobago? We must determine that. And what would be the joint maritime boundaries between the 2 countries? So that's what it looks like for Tobago. Then we must also have the freedom to plan and develop our economy, our social structure, yeah, and our cultural structure. We must be able to say what is our first language. Whether like Jamaicans, our first language is our own patois, which is our own broken English, and English is our second language. We must be able to determine everything that goes on in Tobago. We don't want to control Trinidad. We want to control what goes on in Tobago. And if that happens, Tobagonians are happy because there's more than sufficient intelligent persons in Tobago to contribute to the development. Earlier, you made a statement where you said that there are 60,000 persons in Tobago, and you're right. That's the approximate number. But I dare say to you that there are over 375,000 Tobagonians living and working in Trinidad. I repeat, there are over 375,000 Tobagonians living and working in Trinidad. When I say Tobagonians, I mean persons with Tobago origin, strong Tobago roots. That's what I'm speaking about.
So, Mr. Duke, I want you to listen to 𝗪𝗪𝘀𝗀𝗽 and give us your feedback. Here's 𝗪𝗪𝘀𝗀𝗽.
Tobagonians do not want secession. That's the message from Member of Parliament for Tobago West and member of the Joint Select Committee on Self-Government for Tobago, 𝗪𝗪𝘀𝗀𝗽. She says the committee's investigation did not reveal any desire by Tobagonians to break the unitary nature of the state of TNT. Ms. Kudjo says from as far back as 1977, when Tobago East Member of Parliament A.N.R. Robinson began the debate, key in many discussions is what Tobago really wants.
Yes, we want internal self-government, but we want to also maintain the unitary state. And I think that some people are shifting their positions as it relates to what is the definition of internal self-government, because we have some people in Tobago and in Trinidad also who are foisting on Tobagonians that internal self-government means secession. When we consulted Tobagonians, we did not speak to secession. The people of Tobago said that they did not want secession.
Minister Kudjo says that there was talk of federalism or government in which powers are divided between 2 levels of government of equal status. This, however, she says, would require a marshalling of economic, social, and other forces in Tobago.
and we have to build our capacity as we move closer and closer to that. So for instance, we have to build our infrastructure. We have to build, as we speak to monetizing the resources in the sea as we speak about, yeah, to building our technical capacity and our human resources and so on, so we can really get to the point of that level of self-government.
What do you say, Mr. Duke?
I say that she's a little schoolgirl who is big boy dance. Doesn't know what she's saying. She's totally ignorant of what she's saying. She's just repeating what she hears the teacher Rowley says. So she's repeating that, but she's totally ignorant and bereft of what takes place in Tobago. All right? But I'll say this. There was a time when Tobagonians craved internal self-government. That time is long gone. I want to put this on the table squarely. Tobagonians no longer desire internal self-government. Internal self-government is different from self-determination. And I want to explain it too. Internal self-government means that you are burying yourself to become a ward of Trinidad, just like a local cooperative or this what we call these local government. Tobago doesn't want to become a local government of Trinidad, and this is why successive PNM administration saying that the local government should get what Tobago gets, because they want to bring us in line as another chapter of another local government. So instead of running 15 seats, they will run 16 seats for local government. That's their idea. And so she's speaking from a teacher. We don't want internal self-government. What Tobagonians want, and I want to be absolutely clear, is the ability to have self-determination. Self-determination in international law is clear. It is the right, the unadulterated right, or what they will call, it's a cardinal right for the people of Tobago to determine within Tobago, without any external influence, their political status. And so if we want to be integrated with Trinidad today, then so be it. If we want to be associated with them tomorrow, so be it. And if the other day we want to be independent, so be it. That is Tobagonian to decide. Internal self-government doesn't give you that. It doesn't give you that right to determine that. What it says to you is that you are a part of this. You are a part of this. And anything you must get must come through that. So with internal self-government, you cannot borrow money outside on your own. You must borrow from the government. Internal self-government, you cannot sit down and engage any foreigners, any foreign states, make any foreign negotiations. You can't do that. Okay? What we want is our right, because we have never been given that right, our right to have self-determination, full self-determination. Let Tobago decide what Tobago wants. And at this point in the market, see what Tobago wants. They want to continue being integrated with Trinidad, but they do not want Trinidad to continue insulting us. Because if Trinidad continues to insult us, and when I say Trinidad, I mean the PNM, yeah? I don't mean Trinidad people. Trinidad people nice, right? I might one of them, Trinidad people nice, but the PNM stink and they're dirty. They're not nice people, all right? They're not nice. They are slaveholders, and they love to keep people in subjection, in subjugation, and we are not taking that in Tobago. So the PNM wants us to rush for internal self-government, as if to say that is what we want. We want integration, but not internal self-government. I repeat, we want integration with Trinidad, but not internal self-government. We want the ability to have full self-determination. I hope you understand that. If your talk is too high, I could break it down a little more for you.
No.
On being relevant and not being some kind of a academic, you know what I mean?
No, you're going good, man. You're going good. But let me ask this question, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask this question, right? You want integration. Does that mean to say you still want Tobago to have 2 seats in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago?
No. It means that we have nothing to do with Trinidad. When we say integration, integration means that there'll be a federal system, right? And the federal system is such that Tobago is defined in law and Trinidad is defined in law. and the country of Trinidad and Tobago is defined. They must have they must have 3 constitutions, one for Trinidad, one for Tobago, and one for Trinidad and Tobago. So the constitution must speak to those 3 things. The constitution, rather, must speak to those 3 things: the island of Trinidad, the island of Tobago, and the sovereign republic of Trinidad and Tobago. That is what our constitution needs to speak to. Right now, the constitution only speaks of Tobago as if it was some side trick of Trinidad, where they say there shall be an island of Tobago. But the island of Trinidad is not defined. And so we need to say what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Don't define me and leave yourself undefined. The PNM must define Trinidad, and they must define Tobago. And it must be done on equal scales.
But Mr. Duke, you made a reference to the US, right? In the US, like I'm from New Jersey, we have a senator that's representing us in Washington, right? And you were saying that you guys don't really want, whereas that Tobago has 2 representatives, you know, in the parliament in Trinidad and Tobago. When you say about integration, you are talking about basically.
But when we say integration, right? Let's understand this again.
But you understand my point, though.
Yeah, I understand the point clearly. And I said no for discussion purposes. I want the discussion to kind of like blow a little bit more. In Tobago, if we decide to call our head of government Prime Minister, there's nothing wrong with that. In Trinidad, if they choose to call their head of government Prime Minister, there's nothing wrong with that. But there must be a head of Trinidad and Tobago. Okay? And that head of Trinidad and Tobago must be defined in the constitution, and the parameters of the power should be defined, as well as the powers of the Prime Minister in Trinidad, the Prime Minister in Tobago. You know, in other words, we can define it. We are sovereign state. We don't have to go to England to ask us what to do, to tell us what to do. We can say what we want in Trinidad and in Tobago, but they must be defined equally. So for someone to leave Tobago and go to Trinidad, it doesn't happen. If there is a federal government, then we must decide how those seats are divided, because Trinidad cannot have more seats than Tobago, because we are going to be outvoted. All right, good. On any issue. So that's what I'm saying to you. We can't have just 2 seats. But if there's a government of Trinidad, we don't want no place in the government of Trinidad. If there's a government of Tobago, Trinidad have no place in us. There's a separation of powers. But in the federal system, in the government of Trinidad and Tobago, then we have to sit and decide how those seats are going to go, because those seats are votes, and those votes could translate into the changing of the law on issues that are of equal interest to both of us.
But Mr. Duke, that integration you're talking about, does it still come with that 6.9% or 6.8% allocation of the budget? Does it still come with that 6.8 or 9% allocation of the budget?
I do not know where they get that percentage from, but clearly, if Trinidad is to give to Tobago any money, that money is well owed to Tobago, because they have suppressed our instruments within the economy. They have dictated to us for years what we should do in the economy in Tobago, and we have never had a chance to freely, I repeat, Tobago never had a chance to freely, unencumbered, develop its economy, to develop its culture, to develop its social structures. We have never had it. So Trinidad has literally left Tobago unmanned, underdeveloped over all of these years, and they have to pay for it. They have to pay for it. We want reparations. That's what we want. Reparations. Good? We want reparation. You have to pay for it. You must pay for it. Must pay for it.
But how could you want reparations and you get 4% of the budget every year?
That is a small amount, you know. That is not even the tip of the iceberg. What they gave that to those who were there before. They gave that to the PNM stooge. The PNM stooge have run Tobago for all those years while the money was given out. But now the PDP is here. We say we don't want to stripping us. We will tell them how much we need for reparations. As a matter of fact, we will give them the entire sum. This is how I think it was Germany decided to give to some country in Africa a couple billions of dollars, but they're going to give it over a period of time. We want to start negotiating with them how much money they owe us. Yeah, and when I say they, I mean the PNM, the PNM government, the wicked, evil PNM government, who have enslaved Tobagonians and made us
but Mr. Duke, NAR was in charge for 5 years. The UNC was in charge for additional 10 years. What about them too? What about them?
5 years not enough to run a government. Sometimes people start to get to know you and you start to look around inside you're out. 5 years.
But A.N.R. Robinson was a Tobagonian, and you was the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, but that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. All any government could do in 5 years is to build 1 or 2 little buildings and to perhaps do 1 or 2 improvements. And you have to now look at balancing the economy. He had a hard time. The economy was low. It was rough on him. I mean, he did what he could have. But I'm saying to you, now is a new time. We don't have to be tied to no history. We are a new breed of people. I am on the scene now. Farley Chavez is on the scene. Dr. Faith B. Israel on the scene. The other youths who have grown up with brains in their head and they know what they want. Our seniors are sick and tired of being mistreated by the PNM. We are saying to them, we are going to quantify how much money they owe us. The PNM, how much money they rob and they stole and they deprive us from making by making our economy one that cannot work. We will say to them, how much money you owe us? And we will say to them when we want to be paid back by. And let them pay us at peace. After that, be good. After be good. Remember when Haiti rose up and they took their own independence, the French said, what? We lost property. Our slaves are property. No, they had to pay back. And they had to pay back trillions of dollars back to their masters. When slavery was finished, the white man got something, for the abolition of slavery. The Queen gave the white man something for the abolition of slavery. The black man who was brought here as slaves, not indentured laborers, but as brought as slaves in my foreparents. And I could tell you, my great-grandfather came from Africa directly. I know his name. I know the village where he come from. He came here. When they came here by force, they got nothing. When slavery was abolished, they got nothing. Today, we got nothing. I'm saying to you, my friend, Trinidad has to pay because Trinidad are the ones who further sink us into this depressive colonial state called Trinidad and Tobago.
Mr. Duke, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
You know, I'm listening to you. This is Tommy, and I'm saying that comparing Haiti to Trinidad and Tobago seems, and Haiti with France to Trinidad and Tobago, it seems like comparing apples to oranges, for the mere reason that first it was a different era, and secondly, they didn't have an arrangement in the same manner that Trinidad and Tobago does at this particular time. I'm thinking in these times when there's greater need for cooperation and unity to further separate and focus on separation, it does more harm than good. That's just my thought. Maybe I'm thinking wrong, but you tell me what you think of what I'm saying.
Tell me, I think you're wrong. No one speaking about separation. We are speaking about identification. Tobago must be identified that this is Tobago. Trinidad needs to be identified. This is Trinidad. And the integration that we seek with Trinidad must be properly defined. That's all I'm saying. There is no separation here to say we don't want no part. No. We're saying first define Tobago, define Trinidad, and then define what is Trinidad and Tobago. But to do those definitions, it needs to have man-to-man talk. Trinidad PLM cannot dictate to Tobago what we could see and what we can't see. PLM doesn't own the country. They feel they own the whole country. They don't. What they own is a stupid little political party. That's what they own, not this country. They could own a man. They want to tell Tobagonians what to think. Imagine Tobagonians sent down and Tobagonians said to Trinidad, look, we want to have a bicameral system. This man they call Raul, he will come and say to us and say to the nation, when Trinidad look at it, when the PLM look at it, they felt that a bicameral system was not good enough. Now, a bicameral system, for those who don't know, is a two-chamber parliamentary system where you have a lower house and an upper house. Something that Tobagonians had since 1769. Tobagonians enjoyed a bicameral system in the Tobago House of Assembly. So all that system is, he's going to say to us, that's not suited for Tobago, give us a unicameral system, a single chamber house. Can you imagine the kind of nonsense? I mean, these guys are really out of touch with reality. You know? I am saying we don't even want him back in Tobago. We don't even want Roy to come back to Tobago because the man is a disgrace to Tobagonians. He has so much power in his hands to do something for Tobago, and he's doing nothing but insult us.
But Sir Duke, at the end of the day, though, don't the PNM, as it's currently structured in Parliament, gonna come up with a decision, and the PDP really doesn't have any sort of voting power because it's going to be done in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, and the two representatives from Tobago are basically PNM. So at the end of the day, whatever they put forward, you know, is basically going to pass.
No, it can't pass. It requires 3/4 majority.
Right, correct.
They don't have the seats for that. So they will talk and blow hard, and then they will come around and say that the PDP and the opposition, they are one, and they don't want nothing good for Tobago. That's their storyline for years now. But they will be shocked to realize that call the election and they'll be voted out of office for the first time in 20-something years. The PNM will lose Tobago. I want them to call the elections now. Let the people of Tobago talk. Let's end this night of slavery and ushering a day of freedom where Tobagonians get to make decisions for Tobago within Tobago. We shouldn't have to go to Trinidad to make a decision. Imagine that. We are deciding Tobago affairs, but they are taking that down in Trinidad and decide that with a whole bunch of PNM Trinidadians. What is good for Tobago? You ever see nonsense or yet? You ever see nonsense or yet?
So, Mr. Duke, are you confident? Are you confident that if an election is called tomorrow, the PDP will have the most seats in Tobago?
I'm overly confident, and I'm using that word. I'm overly confident. I'm not just confident. This is no normal confidence that I have. I'm overconfident in that. I know the people of Tobago are sick and tired of Rowley and his gang.
By the way, how your $10,000 a year, $10,000 is a month salary donation going?
It's going very good with
Did anybody in the PNM and Tobago donate their salary?
No, they haven't done that. They are just taking from the coffers of the people, from the state money.
Maybe you don't know, Mr. Duke. Maybe you don't know if anyone has. Is there a possibility?
They have not. They are not that type of people, right? They're not that type of people at all. I've given out the PDP and Ahura, only myself, have given out hundreds of hampers from their own salary, hampers to the people of Tobago. Every week we give out bread, sometimes twice a week. We give out bread to people, hundreds of breads. I get hundreds of breads every single week. So we are doing what we can do based on the salary we have. What the PNM in Tobago is doing, they are using state funds to line the pockets of their friends and cushion their stomachs. That's what they're doing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to extend the invitation to Mr. Duke for his people in Tobago to have a voice with us on this program, and to for them to reiterate our invitation. We want the people voice to be heard, the people of Tobago, what they want. So I would like to extend this invitation so their voice is not stifled as the PNM has been able to muzzle them. So and Brother Duke, I am with you in restraining this PNM variant from Tobago.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you so much.
But hey, Watson Duke, you know as a PNM supporter though, right? You know that, right?
Well, I know you used to be. I think you used to be a PNM supporter, right?
Wait. You know I used to be a PNM supporter. Who tell you that?
It used to be. You told me that. But I know after this.
When I tell you that?
Yeah,
when I tell you that?
Don't talk and forget that dangerous man who talks and forgets, talk and remember.
No, right. My mother not tell me a lie, has no memory. You understand? So I always tell the truth. I don't remember ever saying that.
Yeah, Anselm, you said that you used to be a PNM supporter.
But not anymore.
After the PDP supporter.
After this conversation, I declare to you, in the name of Tobago, you are no longer PNM. You are no longer after this conversation. Because if you declare your PNM, then Tobagonians will no longer usher you in as a son of the soil.
Straight up.
No,
So
no,
that party card.
my father from Roxbury. Every time I come to Tobago, they usher me in, man. They don't tell me what party I support.
They are listening to you, you know. If after the show you declare that, they will not honor you as a son.
Well, Mr. Duke, let me declare something. And I declare that when we had Dr. James here. I have said, I am no longer a supporter of Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley and this PNM part, this set of PNM people here. Right, that's what I've said. And I have said that. And I hosted Dr. Rowley twice at my house here in the United States of America when he was in opposition.
Of course, only when he was there.
Good, when he was there. As Croco said in his song, you know, when Christmas time come, he called them just to wish them a Merry Christmas, and they ain't picking up the phone, right? Because the election come and gone, and they win the election now. So I could say that, you know, Croco was trying to send me a message, but I wasn't listening. But anyway, Mr. Duke, someone asked, what are your views on the NIS and people working till 65?
Well, we do not believe in that. We do not believe in people working so old. We believe in the Dubai principle. A man should be retired by the time he's 40-something, high up or 50. That means 50 to be retired. And let him go and develop the private sector, get into his own business. That's what life is about. Why retire a man when he's pushing a walker and urinating on himself? Is that the kind of thing you want to do?
Hey, Mr. Duke, watch it.
Oh, you know, I am 62, I mean pushing a walker, boss.
Me too.
You're still young. Fool yourself.
I'm 61 and I ain't pushing no walker. Watch it.
Fool all yourself. You're still young. There's a lot of slip between cup and lip. Let me drink some water. A lot of slip between cup and lip. 65 is a big difference.
Wait. What color that water is, Mr. Duke? That mommy?
Brother Duke.
This water. Good.
I hope Answer was listening to you. It's not just Dr. Rowley administration. The whole PNM is a cult.
I am saying that fully.
I hope he listened to what you said. That the entire PNM has been a cult.
I'm glad he confessed that he's no longer a supporter
of
Rowley. And I hear in his voice, and I hear in the echo, in the aftertone, he's no longer a PNM.
Oh, well, I didn't say that one. But anyway, another person says, Antonio Clement says, it will most likely reach a point where to gain your goal of Tobago autonomy, you will need to do it with your leadership as PM. What do you say about that, Mr. Duke?
Well, I have no problem with that. You know, a good leader becomes everything to his people so he can give them everything. All right? And if I have to become that to give my people the freedom they need, fine. But if we can get it without me becoming that, then I'm good. I'm good. I just want to serve my people. I've been in a life of service since I was young. And I want to continue being in a life of service to all of my people. And that gives me the greatest joy to serve my people.
Another person says, these Trinidad politicians not stupid, eh? No, they know if Tobago get independence, Trinidad will lose out big time money-wise. Is that true?
True.
Yeah. Is that true? You agree with that? You agree with that, Mr. Duke?
Just repeat one more time again, please, thanks.
These Trinidad politicians not stupid, eh? I just repeating what the person said because you know we Trinidad and how we does right. You know what I mean? Even though in this country 40-something years, I still talk like I still at Trinidad, you know, Trinbago. These Trinidad politicians not stupid, eh? No, they know if Tobago get independence, Trinidad will lose out big time money-wise.
Well, that's true. That's true. I mean, Tobago has resources that Trinidad doesn't have, and the same thing for Trinidad. Trinidad has resources that Tobago doesn't have, and so they will lose one way or the other. And I'm saying we are all for unity, but the unity must be done in accordance with the wishes of Tobago and not the wishes of the PNM. PNM can't decide for Tobagonians. It doesn't matter if it's Rowley or whoever, they cannot decide for Tobagonians. Tobago must decide within Tobago. Within Tobago.
Exactly. And I want you to keep reiterating that. Keep reiterating that. Keep singing that song.
We must decide for Tobago. To carry to Trinidad and let Parliament decide for us. We don't want that. Keep that down there.
Mr. Duke, good point. The PNM keep their supporters in slavery so they could win elections, no economic opportunities.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
indeed.
Another a Tobagonian says, no, this is Mark Dallin. I'm still angry with the way in which Ansel Dennis was put in that position. He's definitely not the person for that position, in my opinion. Do you agree with that?
Well, indeed, when I look at him, I see a school kid who is trying to be a king. And he's definitely out of whack with how a country is run. He feels it's about being suave, it's about being cool, it's about being chill, while the whole place is on fire. And that's the way of the PNM. They always feel that look smart, look well put together, and just be chill. While everywhere around, people belly hurting them for hunger, people fighting for job opportunities, people can't get medical treatment in Tobago without a flight to Trinidad, and you cool. That can't happen. A leader carries the cares of his people on his chest. He's burdened by the cares of his people. He can't sleep at night knowing that people are hungry. And I'm saying we need a leader who is in touch with the people of Tobago. Yeah? We need a leader.
So, Mr. Duke, just give us a minute or so. We're going to go for a quick station identification. We are so happy that you were able to join us and give us a lot of your time. So we're going to go for a quick station identification, and we'll be right back after this. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, it's in the village with the dark triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. We come to you every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And also, Mr. Duke, even though we are streaming on YouTube, we are also streaming here live on 95.9 FM here in New Jersey, where we have a lot of listeners as well who are actually listening. So, you know, it's not just, don't worry. Don't worry about whatever you see on YouTube and things, but we have thousands and thousands of people. We're going to go for a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Cool. I'm here.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM.
And of course, we are back with you. It's in the village with the dark triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. We have with us tonight, you know, Mr. Watson Duke, the leader of the PDP from Tobago. He has joined us, and we really appreciate him giving us the time here. And we having a really fantabulous, fantastic, marvelous, wonderful conversation, man. It's a great conversation. So, Mr. Duke, let's quickly go to some other questions here in the in the chat. We always have a lot of questions in the chat. Let me see right here. Hold on.
I have a question for Mr. Duke pertaining to the journalist and her remark and her dismissal or removal, should I say?
Yeah.
You have any thoughts? You have any thoughts on that?
No, I think it's a statement. You made a statement. You actually did a post, a Facebook post.
Right.
With respect to the journalist who made some statements on a private Facebook page, and she used, you know, an obscene language, and she was reprimanded, so to speak, you know, by her employer. And you had came out and said, you know, you totally disagree with that. You know, it was freedom of speech because it was on our own private platform.
Yeah. And the employer is wrong. The employer is wrong. I mean, the employer is dead wrong. There's no way the employer can win that case. And I speak as an expert in labor law. I have my master's from the University of Leicester in employment law. There's no way the employer can win that case. They are totally wrong, and sooner or later they will find that out. But what is more important for me is in the opinion of the public, in the court of public opinion, that they also see the employer as being wrong. You know, in Trinidad and Tobago, they make a big deal about obscene language. In the United States of America, it's no big deal. You with me?
Nah. Yeah, correct is right.
No big deal.
No big deal at all. Yeah.
World country, and we are a third world country. So it says that human beings are changing, and more importantly, it's the context in which the word was used. The word was used very skillfully and very thoughtfully. It was not used to provoke anger. or to incite ill feelings or any kind of negativity, but just used to bolster her position that she's one serious person about country and she's going to protect her country. And that's what it was used for. All right, it was used as an adjective to strengthen her resolve. And so when one look at the context of the use of it, I mean, clearly it wasn't used as an obscene language there. So they're totally out of context. And sooner or later they'll find out. They will have to pay her. I can tell you that they will have to pay her lots of money. Lots of money.
Another question, Mr. Duke. What is your views how the PM told the people in his statement Tobago is the place to be for Easter, knowing that the virus is rising, and how is the vaccination process going on in Tobago?
Well, the PM is the PM as Rowley. He's a master.
Why do you call him Dr. Keith Rowley?
Well, I could call him Dr. Keith Rowley, but I just find the name too long. All that long talking name. I don't like it. I don't like to talk about him too much.
But yeah, if you get a doctorate, would you like somebody to call you Dr. Winston Solomon Duke?
No. I've been to universities, and universities where we have all them lecturers are professors, doctors. You don't call them professor, you don't call them doctor, you know. You call them by their first name. Straight up, and that's in most world countries. We only try to make a big
but that's call you professor, though. That's call you professor.
Well, no, not necessarily, no.
No, I'm a professor, I'm telling you from experience. Most of my students call me professor.
Well, all right. Well, and that's based on the way you teach, right? Because in some, they call by first name. When you deal with big men and big hard back women, we're talking about full-time students, you know, big hard back men and women.
Oh, all right. Okay. Yeah. So,
if it's freshmen, it's all right. Freshmen, young people, they call it professor. But hardback man will watch out say professor. No. People don't do them things again. That's long time superiority complex.
They call it prof.
Prof. Yeah, so back to the question regarding Tobago was the place to be, and what is the vaccination process in Tobago?
He's a master tactician. I think he's a master tactician. I think
he's a genius. This
whole thing was planned out. And immediately after, he said that he came to Tobago for the weekend. And he was mixing and mingling with persons in Tobago. That's right. And all of a sudden, as the Easter finished, he reported that he has COVID. Imagine that, eh? He reported he had COVID. He never went to a hospital. He never removed himself from the media. But look at it, eh? When will leaders like Boris Johnson, right, Prime Minister of England, when he got COVID, he stayed away from the media and he went into that state of treatment, full treatment. When Donald Trump got COVID, he again removed himself from the media and went into serious treatment. When Rowley got it, he set up a media station and said, look, come interview me. And the people, I mean, this whole thing is just weird, man. It's just suspicious. His behavior is rather curious, I would say. Very curious. And I think that Rowley needs to take a serious recollection and recognize this is not the 1960s. This is 2021, and the millennials are very bright people. Trust me, they're very bright people. They'll figure it out just like this. They'll figure it out like that and laugh at you.
Very bright.
You can't fool them.
I can tell you, I got a 21-year-old daughter who just graduated from college.
All right, lovely.
Very bright.
Very brilliant. So, I mean, I have children too, and they shock me every time with intelligence.
What about vaccination in Tobago?
Well, I can't say much about the vaccination in Tobago. I think the last figure I saw today was about 1,900 about persons vaccinated. You know what I mean? But I'm saying, right, that if we are doing vaccination, we must be able to be serious with the people. You can't tell the people come for vaccination and then they run out of vaccine. Yeah, I mean, you can't tell people that. But they'll come for vaccination and run out of vaccine, and then you're bringing down only vaccination and get from people vaccines that are about to expire. You know how bad that does look? That all come for this fast, they're about to get expired. Nations are giving us things that they don't want, and we're taking it here. Things that are about to expire and telling people, come quick because you're about to get expired. I think it's so bad. I mean,
Mr. Duke, have you been vaccinated? Have you been vaccinated?
I've not been vaccinated, and I'm taking my time with that because I read today. I was doing some research today on vaccines in America, the travel restrictions in America, COVID, and they have a clear document, a document that simply says, in New York in particular, that all these vaccines are trial vaccines, and they're not FDA approved.
Correct.
That's that. They're not none of those vaccines, none, not one single, not one of them are FDA approved. When you go to Canada, they are saying if you have Sinopharm, you can't come inside it. That? You'll accept Sinopharm and Sinovac vaccines. Imagine the Chinese using that, Chinese using that, that coming down here, Sinovac and Sinopharm. Canada saying we're not accepted. Forget that. Consider yourself as being unvaccinated, right? And America is saying none of these vaccines, not Johnson & Johnson, not Pfizer, not the AstraZeneca, none of them, none of those are FDA approved. It says to me, keep yourself quiet, Watson. Don't rush down them things. Because if the FDA is responsible for approving vaccines, why are they not approving them? What they know that we don't know? Come on, I have to think.
And what they know that they're not telling you.
And they're not telling us. So I have to think. I'm not rushing down, but I'm not against those who take the vaccine. Trust me. I'm not bad talking anybody who wants the vaccine.
Correct is right. Another person says the PNM will never agree to give Tobago independence because they'll never win elections again. Do you agree with that?
Well, I'm hoping that happens for sure because they are an evil group of people. I've never seen a bunch of people who are empowered to govern a country move so evil yet. They are directly evil. I mean, they are not.
But I don't call it Watson. Watson.
Yeah. Everything is
when we wasn't on YouTube, I said to you, the PNM party is a wicked and evil party with respect to exile and stranded citizens, and with respect to how they are treating poor people in Trinidad and Tobago.
And yet you love them.
No, but you disagree with me. You say you wouldn't. No, but listen, you said you wouldn't use those words back then.
Well, if I said that, I was only trying to align myself with your feelings, the deep love for the PNM. I don't want to offend your feelings. The deep love for the PNM. That would be very guarded. Listen to me.
But it's not only excellent strategy, isn't that what we get to?
That's why your middle name is Solomon, you know.
You have to be careful. Anytime you see a man bad talking his partner, you have to be very careful, you know. When a man bad talking, be careful. Be rushing, you know. Try not to see
that. So, here we have another question here. All these years, why Tobago don't have factories? Why everything have to come from Trinidad to Tobago?
The answer is simple. The PNM does not want Tobago to be developed. Again, I repeat, in the 1960s, when this whole thing about self-government and self-determination came up, and those colonized countries were being given self-determination by their colonizers, the mandate was internationally that those who administer over those colonies should be able to bring up their internal organs to a point where each country could run itself. So when they came and they say we want our independence, it was a time to look and say, okay, you can handle yourself, go ahead. It never happened for Tobago. Tobago was a ward of Trinidad when Trinidad sought independence. And Trinidad was supposed to develop Tobago. It has never developed Tobago, not to this day. Tobago is the only Caribbean country that doesn't have a cruise ship complex. You can imagine that? The only Caribbean country that doesn't have a cruise ship complex is Tobago. Tobago is the only Caribbean country that doesn't have a marina. Trinidad has about several. Every country has several. Tobago has none. This is how undeveloped Tobago is. It's a shame.
It sounds like Tobago is a stepchild of love until way.
But not a stepchild.
Oh God!
I don't want to see what it is. But Tobago is not being favored by the PNM. PNM want us to be exploited to the hilt so they can take advantage and rule over us. Hence, they composed a song for Tobago. You know, have you ever heard it? The PNM composed that song. Hear what the song
We love you, so we take great care of you. Only the PNM
love you so. Don't change. Stay so. And we will take care of you. You depend on us. You depend on us. Yeah. And we understand you.
What's like not the lyrics, man? The lyrics is we love you, so we take good care of you. Only the PNM understands. That's the lyrics. Yeah,
no, they want you so. They want you to stay so.
Stay so.
Mr. Duke, here's another question from a person from Tobago. Mr. Duke, what is the current situation with regularizing of salaries of public servants? That's a question person from Tobago.
Well, regularizing salaries of public servants is always a political matter because generally public servants are exactly what the name says, they are servants. Their time belongs to the government, and though they should be paid market rates, which is rates that are prevailing in the country for similar jobs, etc., they are not paid market rates. They are paid based on what the government wants to afford. I use the word what the government wants to afford. It's not what the government could afford, but what they want to afford. And so therefore, it's not a big thing in their mind. This is the worst in the history of the country. It has never, ever happened yet, where we have salaries outstanding for 2014 to 2021. That's a large span of time. And it says of the failure of the government to adjust workers' salary so as to meet the expenditure on a monthly basis. Workers are working with the salary cut right now. But the government, again, love them so, stay so, don't change, stay just so. We understand you, stay so.
Let me say a good night to Pamela George as well. Pamela George has joined us. Pamela, where are you joining us from? Albert Montano asks, my daughter was born in Scarborough General Hospital. Will she get a citizenship for Tobago?
That's a question?
Yeah, that's a question.
Well, of course. And we are not seeking independence at this point in time. I repeat, Tobago, we are not, the PDP is not seeking independence on behalf of Tobagonians at this point in time. And I guard my words and say at this point in time, because that's something that should always be on the deck for any country. When we feel that the time has come, we would separate, because the relationship after 100 and something years has not favored Tobagonians. We are still without a marina. The fishermen who have to get gas must come inland, buy gas, and then take it back out to their boat swimming, risking their lives. If gas doesn't come from Trinidad, we don't get it in Tobago here, even though Tobago is producing its own gas now. Even though there are large gas finds, larger than any gas find in Trinidad. The buses that we drive on in Tobago, they come from Trinidad. Unless the man in Trinidad goes to get some old bus to them, we get no bus. All the vehicles that we drive in Tobago, they come from Trinidad. There's not one single area in Tobago that sells directly vehicles from foreign. They're always selling on behalf of Trinidad and Tobago. Nothing here.
And that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in your airport being directly operational, where people can fly directly instead of going to Trinidad. I'm interested in seeing that you have a port where stuff can come directly to Tobago instead of have to go to Trinidad then to come.
Definitely. And
this is something that
we
I very
decide
much
to
want
do
to
those
see.
things as PDP. As PDP, we want to have a cargo port in Tobago where cargo could come directly to Tobago. Yes, cargo should come directly to Tobago, so we don't have to go to Trinidad to buy lumber to bring in Tobago, buying cargo to Tobago. Nonsense. And we want to have a cruise ship complex where when the tourists come, they must be given that same feeling as they're given in Barbados and St. Martin and all of these countries. We also want to have direct flight leaving from Tobago to go up the islands. Imagine if a man wants to go to Grenada, he must first go down to Trinidad and then fly over Tobago to go to Grenada. Imagine that? This is what the PNM love us so. PNM says, we love you so, we love you so. The kind of man, it doesn't happen in no other Caribbean country. No other Caribbean country. Grenada, when you go to St. Vincent, you only go up. You go up to St. Vincent.
Yeah, you go to
Grenada, you go down to Trinidad and then go up to.
Well,
Really
I have
mad.
a recommendation. I have a recommendation to Dr. Rowley. In that money he was going to spend to build the Tobago, the Toco port, that he should build the Tobago port. That is what I recommend. That they build the Tobago port instead of the Toco port right now. You know,
Yeah,
that should be more priority.
Well, our Prime Minister is not a very intelligent man. Eh? He has books, but he's not very intelligent because he would have looked after Tobago. Imagine he's saying he's building a port into Toco because it's good for Tobagonians. Who want to come and go to Toco? Who want to go to Toco?
You could Toco close to Tobago, that is why. To Toco, you could see Toco from Tobago.
Toco to Port of Spain is almost 3 hours. And with a highway, it's going to take you maybe 2 hours maximum, minimum, I mean. So let's get it straight. After you travel 1 hour from Tobago to Toco, and a very rough sea, it's very rough seas, rough seas, I could tell. I've traveled there with pirogues, rough seas to Toco. 1 hour. You then take 2 hours to go by car to go to Trinidad or Washington. You're going to get sick.
But
Mr. Duke, no reduction in time there. They're just evil. The PDP is just evil.
Why don't they build a road from Tobago to Toco or Tobago to some parts of Trinidad? Like they have the Chinese, right? Because we get loan from China, right? Why don't they have the Chinese come and build a bridge that goes from Tobago that connects Trinidad with Tobago, and you can take an hour and you drive over and you go over to Trinidad.
Amen.
And they can't do that. But hear what the Prime Minister says. Rowley says. He says, you see that sea between Trinidad and Tobago? He says the deepest sea out. Deepest sea. He says where they getting piled from to drive down there. You're the kind of nonsense the man talking. I know that man.
You sure he said that? Or you making that up?
He says way too much to forget that idea one time. This man is a geologist, you know.
Oh my God.
When they're building these gas structures out there, plants out there, right? But these things moving, these gas things out there is moving.
Yeah.
And when they anchor these platforms out there, it stays there for a long time. So you can't tell me that you can't build a floating bridge. Throughout the world now, that building a floating bridge, one of the longest floating highways is being built in Norway right now to connect a number of small countries and small islands out there.
Yeah.
And people are doing it all the time. Don't tell me that, hey, now, see, way deep, we're getting piled from the drive that. If we want to unite the countries, then we will make a serious concerted effort to join both countries permanently together. And we could do that, you know. We could do it in a flux of 1.5 million people coming to Tobago every weekend with their own cars, coming to Tobago to shop, going down the shop. I mean,
you can have a toll.
It's beautiful to have, but the mind of PNM is so backward. You ever see them guys build any building at all? They have no building of class in Trinidad. All the buildings.
Man build the waterfront, as well as Hyatt. He also build the performing arts centers. You know, he built quite a few things. Huh?
Most of those buildings have no fast certificate. I can tell you that. We have members working in those buildings. A lot of those buildings have no fast certificate. None. They have not reached the level to have a fire certificate by the fire department. And if they do, it's one that is not proper. I could tell you that because I am also a trade unionist, one of the foremost trade unionists in the country. And when we write to them, ask them for the approved plans for those buildings and the fire certificate and electrical certificate, etc., they can't give it. They can't give it.
Yeah, right? but they've still been built. They have been built. All right, and they have been used. And they have been utilized.
And if people get damaged inside it, people can sue. People can sue. A lot of those buildings are also placed for fungus, black fungus, which is a fungus that causes serious cancer.
I know one time there was a problem with the sheetrock as well, because it was a problem in Florida with the type of sheetrock, and the sheetrock was getting kind of moldy, and that sheetrock came from China. I know because at that point in time I was working at the New York Stock Exchange, and that was a big thing. But I was under the other party. But that's for another day. Anyway, Mr. Duke, another person says, Ulrich says, Mr. Duke, do you have intentions of doing anything for public servants, retirees, pension, like adding COLA to it?
Certainly, certainly. What we are saying is that the PSA, we are saying one, we want to have all retirees benefit from an index pension. An index pension means that your pension will always be 100% of its purchasing power. So your pension will not be eroded by inflation, because there will be a buffer. As inflation goes up, your pension will have that kind of index on it. Or as we settle new agreements, which are supposed to be market rates, you will get a percentage of that, whichever is more affordable. So we want to have person's pension. We want to ask for that. But again, with this wicked and evil government, they don't want that. But we are going to argue for that. That's on the table. Secondly, we want to ensure that all retirees continue to enjoy a health plan as they once enjoyed when they were in the public service. Right now, we have a health plan in the public service, one that I negotiated for, where they get $3 million critical cover. $3 million critical cover. And we want to ensure that our retirees continue with that health plan even in their old age. Yeah?
Yeah. Somebody says, if PNM builds a bridge to Tobago, how Caribbean Airlines go make their money?
Well, that's it. The Caribbean Airlines could go from Tobago to Grenada. They don't need to come between Tobago.
Yeah.
While I went from Tobago to Trinidad, then to Grenada. That's madness.
Well, the government bankrupting Caribbean Airlines anyway. So, I mean, we don't know how long Caribbean Airlines is going to continue.
They're going to increase the airfares for Tobago very soon. Eh? You see with these people that sent home there, these 450 pilots they want to send home.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable, and they're going to increase the fare to Tobago from $300 to about $700 and say, well, we have a boat now. You could pay the boat. And they're going to increase the boat fare too, because all of these are subsidized. The boat fare and the airfare is subsidized. Yeah? This is why Tobago should have its own boat that is controlled by the Tobago House of Assembly. Tobago ought to have its own transport authority, Tobago Transport Authority. That is a motion I moved in the Tobago House of Assembly, and they ridicule it, they laugh at it. But we ought to have our own transportation authority, one that is responsible for airfare between Trinidad and Tobago and Trinidad, and seafare between Tobago and Trinidad. We must have our own plane in Tobago, and we must have our own boat in Tobago. So at any one point in time, we could decide that we want to subsidize that in Tobago. We could decide we want to subsidize that. Yeah?
Mr. Duke, do you agree with naming of the boat APT James? Did you agree with that?
No, that disrespect. APT James was one who represented Tobago as a country that should have greater interdependence from Trinidad. But put it differently, he's a man who strongly positioned arguments for Tobago's self-government and self-determination. He was a man that was rooting for Tobago to stand up for itself and be less dependent on Trinidad. And now you have bought a boat, and it's a Trinidad boat, it's a PNM Trinidad boat, and you are saying that the boat is a APT James boat. No. Why isn't that boat given to the port in Tobago and say, all right, this boat belongs to Tobago and one in Trinidad? No. The boats belong to the Port Authority of Trinidad. And they sleep in Trinidad. So if the Port Authority says, do not sail to Tobago today, nobody in Tobago can make that boat sail. If the Airport Authority in Trinidad say, hey, do not fly to Tobago today, then that's it. If the Airport Authority, if Caribbean Airlines in Trinidad says do not fly to Tobago, nobody in Tobago could make the Caribbean Airlines plane come to Tobago. And this is why we need to have our own boat, our own plane in Tobago that we could allow for commerce. Should those in Trinidad have a problem with their boat or plane, we could decide we are going to still travel once the runway is good, once the port is good.
You know, somebody asking, Mr. Duke, and just a few more minutes, will the Chinese have any interest in the affairs of WASA, or are they already involved? I'm just curious, sir.
Well, the Chinese have interest in anything. I mean, and rightfully so. They have a right to have interest in anything, because the Chinese wants to be a world power, and rightfully so. One can't stop that. But the thing is, how much we as a country want to develop businessmen within our own country, and we want to strengthen our own country from within. I mean, China will come and they will give you a loan, but at the end of the day, no meals are free. You'll have to pay one way or the other. When you look at Dominica, you look at all other areas in the Caribbean where the Chinese are, when they come in and they become involved, they simply set up shop also. They simply set up shop also. So throughout the entire world, Chinese are all over this world, and there's nothing wrong with that, except that we in Tobago ought to strengthen Tobagonians and ensure that they are in a position to go to China too. We had a particular philosophy under my run, right, in 2020. We were saying, just as the Chinese could come here and do projects, we want to sign an agreement that our local contractors could go to China and do projects too. And if our local contractors in Tobago can't go to China and do projects and learn, then why are the Chinese coming here to do projects in the first place? Let there be an exchange program. Right must be right. And if something is good, then we want to learn from you too. Don't just come down here and give us work to mix mortar and to total water and this kind of thing and to paint. We want to learn how it is to configure buildings on the ground and just bolt them up, blah, 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 blah. We want to know how to put up buildings in 1 week, 2 weeks. We want to learn that. So we'll take a trained group of contractors from Tobago and send them up to China to learn the work. That's what it is. Teach them how to fish and give them a fish for a lifetime. I don't know about you came out to say every day and you fishing and give me fish. I don't know that.
Let me say welcome to Ian Pollard. I'm sure you know that fella.
My very good friend, man.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, he says Rowley and the PNM never cared about Tobago. The PDP will transform Tobago and Tobagonians. I know you agree with that, so I'd rather say anything about that. Ulrich says, huh?
That's a foregone conclusion.
Ulrich say, with regard to the question about the retirees' pension, like Adam Kohler, he asks, when are you going to negotiate that?
Well, we have already placed those things on the table for discussion, but it takes two persons to negotiate, and in this case, it takes the government to come to the table with something. So we have spoken about that. We have spoken about the health plan. Those things are already on the table, documented in our notes between the personnel department, which is the government HR department, and the PSA, which represents the public servants of the country. But there have been no discussions further because they are using COVID to literally see that they are watching to see how things going. They can't discuss that now. But certainly we have even signed off with National Insurance Board. That's the company that's responsible for social care in this country, right? National insurance, etc. And 9% for 2014, 15, and 16. And the government states frankly that they're not paying it. They can't pay, they're not paying it. So one asks themselves, why are we negotiating and why is it that these things have been settled and the government is turning around and saying that they're not paying it? Not the government, but they're paying them. These wicked, dirty people saying they're not paying it. You see, they don't believe in democracy, you know. What they believe in is autocracy. Just like their forefather said, when I speak, no dumb dog bark. Real bullface. That's what they are. Bullface with a spite.
Yep.
You say you want to be part of these people?
Just two last questions, Mr. Duke, before you go. Rose asks, so can you really swim from Tobago to Trinidad?
Well, I did.
You swim into Trinidad waters, right? That's what it was, right?
No. We swam from Tobago and we swam to Trinidad.
In Trinidad waters. Into Trinidad waters.
Into Trinidad waters, right? Not only that, into what we swam into Togo. And we swam out Tobago.
So
and while we were there, sharks were bouncing us, you know. We met sharks.
You met sharks? My father name is Sharky, you know, you didn't see him.
No, I know him very well. Very good man. Married on at these places, man.
Yeah. And lastly, Lana asks, I wonder if they find back the PM Peacock that was missing in Tobago.
Wow. You know, rumor has it rather, that when he had lost some sheep and goats, etc. And national helicopter was looking for that, you know. Then when this peacock went missing thereafter the peacock went missing. You know that was on news, big news. The Prime Minister lost his peacock. You can imagine that. But man, you know how much fowl we lost as young people growing up. Men knocking on your fowl and cook it. That never make news. But the Prime Minister lost his peacock, and that making big news in the papers. You see this like jokey country sometimes.
Oh God. And lastly, Takesha asked Mr. Duke, what's your thoughts on managing of the borders out at sea? What's your thought of managing the borders? So I guess the management of the borders by the government.
I think that it's a very serious issue, because if your borders are not managed, then it means that anything could enter your country. And I say anything. We're talking about biological disease could enter the country through your borders. Guns could enter your country through your borders. We could have even errant people, terrorists could enter your country through your borders. And so your borders are very, very important. So one of the things that a country must guard religiously, and spend whatever money is necessary to guard your borders. However, in this country, it doesn't seem to be a very important issue. The Coast Guard are highly understaffed. They are not given gas to patrol the sea properly. Recently, when we had a boat with some corpses entering our shores, it was the fishermen who detected the boat. And when the fishermen radio in to that, it is reported that they say they instructed the fishermen to tie the boat and bring it in. Can you see the kind of madness we're dealing with here? So clearly, we are not serious about protecting borders. But I'll tell you this, when the PDP get into office, or when we hold position in the central government that will allow us to have policy-making positions, we would be able to fix that issue, because border control is a serious matter and no laughing thing.
And finally, we have Ulrich says, I strongly support your party coming to Trinidad. And Ian Pollard said, that is true, 3 national security helicopters.
Well, he's from the area, so he could tell you.
Yeah, well, 3 of them are searching for the peacock, you know. So.
Anselm, I need to write a poem on that one, boy.
Yeah, but yeah, everybody looking for the peacock, boy. So, Mr. Duke,
thank you.
Finally, before you go, what we fight here for, we started this program a few months ago, you know, with 𝗪𝗵𝘁𝘀𝗽𝗽's leadership, and we were fighting for exile and stranded citizens. And we see today that the borders are going to be open on July 17. But here is my question, right? We have a Delta strain now in the air. And we have been told that this strain is the worst strain ever, right? It's more dangerous than the P1. It's more dangerous than the strain from India, South Africa. You know,
more highly transmissible.
Happy, right. I am happy that Trinidad and Tobago is going to open its borders. However, to me, they were lying to the people and tell them they were following the science. How come all of a sudden we opening the border and we're not following the science anymore? What did I miss?
That's a good question. I think that's a question for the Prime Minister to answer, right? Because I will not trouble myself with answering those questions. I will not attempt to answer those questions. I think that it's quite curious how they are making moves on opening up the construction sector for the government, but the construction sector for the man who wants to cover his roof for the rainy season will be opened up later. Yeah? The man whose roof is leaking, we are in the rainy season right now, his roof is leaking, or his wall, you need to put a wall to protect his house. And they're saying to him, now, when you're ready, we go open that. Let's see the government buildings are there, we want to start that now. That to me is also something I can't understand. Something the Prime Minister has to explain. But then again, he doesn't have to talk to anybody. Ask him a question you don't like, he simply curses you.
Also, Mr. Duke, I raised the question to, I didn't mean to hold you back. sending, I know the children, they're stressed about the SEA exams, but to send them out there unvaccinated, as he has said in the past, that an unvaccinated citizen is a threat, to put them in these closed environments to go write an exam and then to let them go back home to their families, I don't think, with the Delta variant, which is a more highly transmissible variant, I don't think that's a safe thing to do.
I agree with you. It's not a safe thing to do. But again, the PNM, they're evil. What can you expect from an evil man? They are not thinking about the health of the nation. First of all, these kids depend on adults for protection and guidance. And if you are putting them in a place where there is danger, then what you are saying is you do not care. I have a grandson, and my grandson has been swabbed several times. Now, he's not living here for COVID. He never had COVID, nor does he have it at this point in time. But he has been swabbed. So he says that even little children are swabbed for COVID. I know little children in Tobago who have been swabbed and who have had COVID, little children. So COVID can affect children. They can catch it. They may be asymptomatic to it, but they can catch COVID. And so sending our children out there unvaccinated, sending our children out there to do C exam is something that I want the Prime Minister to rethink and stop being so cruel and hard-hearted to the people that you have sworn to serve and protect in this country called Trinidad and Tobago.
So, Mr. Duke, if you have a one-on-one with the Prime Minister, what will be the message that you will give to the Prime Minister?
I'll ask him to resign.
You answered your answer.
Yeah?
Why?
There's a discussion to have with him, but it is today resignation.
Why?
I support that. I strongly support that, Brother Duke.
Why would you ask him to
I
resign?
strongly support that decision.
The man is a total failure. He has not succeeded in any one thing. He has totally failed the country. Let me tell you how much he has failed the country. They paid the Chinese to build an overpass on the highway, spent almost $500 million on it. You know that when they build this highway, those big truck that carries these containers and that kind of stuff can't pass underneath it. Yeah? That's the kind of thing we're talking about. They built the Red House, over $500 million on it. You know when they built the Red House was leaking? You know that when they built the Red House, a gate fall down and pin a man nearly kill him? They're just total failures. Total failures. The ride on the APT James and the Boko, the ride is worse than on the JDVL, which is the boat that they got, a second-hand boat from, I think, France, right? And that ride on the JDVL is far better than the ride on the APT James and the Boko. Those boats are literally old boats that they paint up and said, take a boat day for new boats. So we are saying the man is a failure. Nothing he does is good or attractive. He just do it for doing its sake. Even the Tobago bill. The Tobago bill went down, saying we want X, Y, Z. He's going to change up the whole bill, send it up and say that's good for you. This man is a failure. And it's an insult to Tobagoans like myself. I think he has no place in governance. He should simply remain in opposition. He's a good opposition.
Well, Mr. Duke, let me say, unless Tommy or Diana or Gary have anything else, I mean, we want to thank you. You spent a long time with us. We appreciate your candid. We know you're always candid. We know you're always candid and straightforward. And listen, don't be a stranger to the program there, because we have many very. And let me say this, Mr. Duke.
Yeah.
Dr. Faith, that lady is our boss, eh? That lady is I ain't gonna lie to you. She, you know, man, it was one thing I had to tell you, boy. You just pick good people, you know.
Thank you, sir. I'm humbled by your accolade.
You seem to have a knack for picking good people. Eh? Why is that? Before we go, why is that? How is that?
Well, I think I have my eyes set in the right direction. You know, when I met Dr. Faith, she wasn't a politician. She told me out flat. She has no interest in politics. She's a technocrat, and if I want assistance with research and anything, writing anything, she will be up for that. She supports the party, but not as a politician. You know, I mean, you know, you can't just approach person once. You have to keep talking with them, and eventually, after a few conversations, she was my second candidate that I announced in 2016 to run for the 2017 THA election. You know, so I mean, Farley was the same thing too. He wasn't interested in politics, but when I started talking with them, and eventually, you know, they saw something that I saw, which is Tobago needs us, and if not us, then who is the question? All right, and the question still remains: if not us, the PDP, to lead Tobago, then who? We are literally bearing ourselves of everything. We are willing to pay the cost to ensure that the average Tobagonian have a say in how their country is governed and what is good for them. Trinidad mustn't dictate that. Back to Trinidad again. PNM. Always saying Trinidad. Trinidad have good people in Trinidad. PNM mustn't dictate to Tobago what's good for them. So that's the basis for me choosing these people, on the fact that they were ready to serve Tobago and they were willing to pay the cost whatsoever it was to be paid.
And lastly, we will let the Tobagonian ask the last question. Mark Daniel says, talk about the cultural complex here in Tobago.
Well, that's a big, it's the biggest concrete tank in the entire world. Water will do good with that concrete tank like that. The tank that doesn't hold water, it simply holds bats, gargoyles, and zombies. It's been $1 billion to build it. And the amount of functions they have kept in that building thus far is less than 20. It is now around for about some 8 years or so, and it is totally underused. I've kept less than 20 functions in that. It is still not connected to Tiantec. What they use to run that big water tank is a generator. You hear me? I repeat, that generator is not connected to Tiantec. There is, like I said, the government is failing. The PNM government is failing this country. It was built under the PNM, under Oval London. Yeah. Wow. I tell you.
Yeah, somebody say this. You know, I just say everything anyways. Somebody say, Ansem, you'll soon leave PNM and join Watson Duke.
Yes, I think you have left already. Can I affirm that tonight? Can I confirm that tonight? I'm putting a question to you. Can I confirm you've left the PNM?
No, Mr. Duke, I'm the one asking the question.
Yeah, he's shifting the goalposts.
What do you want to confirm?
Whether you have left the PNM and joined the PDP. It's okay. You are away from the PNM. They can't victimize you. You don't have to be afraid.
Well, listen to this, sir. As you say that, right? I talk about the 4 Ds, right? And when you are part of the PNM, you have to be able to understand these 4 Ds. And I also talk about there's a go along, get along gang in the PNM. Right, and there are certain people, doesn't matter what the PNM do, they go along so they could get along. I'm not part of that group, right? And so, Mr. Duke, before you go, someone says, Mr. Duke, thank you for being on the show tonight.
Yeah.
Your views are appreciated and very educational. Another person says, thank you, Mr. Duke, for answering a couple of my questions. Nice listening to you tonight. Hope this will be the last time with us and learned so much from you tonight. And Takisha said, at least the PNM can't blame Kamala for his failure in Tobago. Yes, and somebody said, Ansem, you'll soon leave PNM and join Watson Duke. So, you know, that's for another discussion, Mr. Duke. but seriously, Mr. Duke, we seriously want to thank you from the bottom of our heart in order that you can join us and stay much longer than you schedule. You know, we appreciate you, and many people in the chat appreciate your candidness and straightforwardness. But I like the one with that concrete thing, You just come up with some good jokes sometime, you know. That's why I like to listen to your live, man. You just come up with some real good ones sometime, man. You know, for Tobagonian, you're good enough.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, for island of 60,000 people, you have done very well. And Mr. Duke, let me say this, for the PDP to go from 2 to 6, from people can say what they want. For your organization, which you can say was a rookie organization, if we are being honest. For your organization to go from 2 to 6, the PNM had to understand the tides have changed in Tobago.
Yep.
And I don't think they could ever get back those sales in Tobago.
Never.
You know, I want to say I think the tides have left, and I don't see it turning around anytime soon. But you know, we still have Monday to come, and before you go, if you look into your crystal ball, what will come out from Monday?
Well, that will be the setting of a stage for the next THA elections, because it's going to fail, and they will come out and they are going to blame the PDP for not getting the opposition to support the bill, and they will try to make Tobagonians feel that the 6.8% they are offering, which is less than the 6.9% they were supposed to get, is good, and therefore the PDP should be removed from office because we are trying to block an improved Tobago and Trinidad relationship. That's how you operate all the time. You operate on lies, you operate on half-truths and innuendos, but we are prepared for them. We have something inside the mortar, beside the pestle. I can guarantee you, when we drop that, it will rock them.
And Mr. Duke, Mark Daniel says, thank you for fixing my roof, Mr. Duke.
Our pleasure, man. We will do it again for anybody once the funds are available.
Well, I got to tell you, we thank you so very kindly. If you have any closing words before you go.
Well, I want to say thanks to the triplets. I don't want to say dog.
The dad triplets, dad. We can call them dad. DHE, DHE, dad.
Triplets, it would have been fun tonight. I did enjoy my conversation with you, as if we were having that face-to-face interface. Thank God for technology and the fact that we could all talk internationally about issues that are happening locally. To me, it signals the progress of man. And I know that in Tobago, we can also make a lot of progress if we keep looking outwards to what's happening beyond our shores. So I want to challenge the people of Tobago to look beyond your nose and to see what's happening in bigger countries, so we can say to ourselves, we can do it, we can develop, and we can become good as any and better than many. I salute all of you tonight, Professor, Miss Bearskin, and Timothy. Timothy, I got Timothy correct?
Tommy. And Gary.
And Gary, I want to thank all of you. You have been a great host tonight. I mean, you all made the show come up alive.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you so much.
To get outside. Thank you. I salute all of you on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever you are in Boston. Watson Duke, love all you.
Thank you so much, man. It's a pleasure. Man. All right, bye-bye. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, Brother Duke.
So, folks, there we have it. Let me get all of